What was Alex like? Well, Alex was a good guy. He was highly educated, despite not having a lot of formal education. He used to love to talk about various things, politics, community. He was he started practicing Buddhism, so we would have a lot of debates and arguments around pacifism. But he was always a good-natured individual. I knew him for so many years, can't even count how many, probably around 15, 20, a long time. I saw him grow up. I was one of the first non-family members to find out. I found out through his brother. I'll never forget. So he was shot on a Friday, on March 21st. And I had just gotten home from work. I didn't hear the gunshots, but a girlfriend at the time called me and told me that somebody had gotten shot at the mountain. Didn't know who it was, didn't know anything. The next day, my neighbor mentioned that she had heard that there was a gunfight up at the mountain between police and somebody else. But everything was so unclear. It wasn't until I went to go get a haircut that Saturday afternoon that his brother called and he's like, dude, do you remember you've heard about the shooting that happened at the mountain last night? And I was like, yeah. Who was it? Because if he's calling me, he must know who it is. He's like, dude, that was my brother. And so that's when I found out. So I was one of the first people that found out that it was Alex. It hit me, it was shocking. I was in shock for a while. But then I started the process of like calling certain folks and organizing and trying to figure out what the next steps were gonna be. The officers involved are full of shit. They lied. They said that that he pointed a taser at them. I mean, I knew Alex for a long time. I knew his job. He was a security guard. He was a student. He wanted to go to state. He wanted to work with youth in a different capacity than I do. He wanted to work at Juvie Hall and do a lot of case management. So I knew that, none of us have a good relationship with SFPD. But for him to, in their narrative, say fuck you to them, pull out a taser like if he's gonna shoot at them is preposterous. And forensics found fragments of his wrist bone in his pocket, which means that he never pulled out his hands. So all of that was clearly placed in evidence and during the trial that was found. But it's hard to, one, get the district attorney's office to push for trying SFPD officers in a homicide case. And when that didn't happen and we had to go to a civil jury to try to get money out of SFPD and out of San Francisco, that's equally as difficult, even though you don't have to prove as much. There's a ton of different ways the police could have approached the situation, but at the end of the day, the police ended up slandering him through the media, running his name through the mud, trying to paint him as someone who was mentally unstable. Never did the police go up there and just say, halt, stop, nothing. They just flat out went up there with a directive to go shoot somebody. They got the call, they figured that he was a gang member, that he was a norteño, that he had a gun on him, that he had flashed the gun on somebody, which is not what happened. And so they went up there ready to shoot somebody. They wanted the action. They wanted that adrenaline rush. Because most of the time, their jobs are just driving around, harassing community members, and pushing out paperwork. I was pissed. I'm still pissed to this day. I can't stand the police. I've had my own negative interactions with them, but luckily I never had them actually shoot me like they did him. So to this day, I'm still angry about what happened to my friend. I see his parents all the time. I talk to his parents all the time, his brother. They still live right next door to me. So even though it's now been, 4 or 5 years since it happened, that wound is just something that will never close. And my anger towards San Francisco, my anger towards SFPD is something that has continued. This is a product of gentrification. This is a product of police brutality, all because we become strangers in our own